Well, good afternoon, everybody. Excited to be joined by the head coach of the Fargo Force, the recently crowned Clark Cup champion Fargo Force. Brett Skinner joins us this afternoon for this edition of USHL in Focus. Thanks for joining us. Brett, how are things going for you today?
Things are going well today. I got home to Sioux Falls with my family and got the kids out of town, so a little bit more relaxing now. I got up on the roof, got the gutters cleaned, and got out in the yard a little bit. So got kind of get the summer on track here.
Yeah, the life of a junior hockey coach, and not only a junior hockey coach, but an extremely successful junior hockey coach this year, especially so with the Fargo Force winning the uh, Western Conference Championship, the Anderson Cup regular season title, and then capping it off this past weekend in Dubuque with the USHL Clark Cup as postseason championships as well. Have you had a chance to let it sink in? It's so early, Brett. What the team did this year was really a historic performance. Have you had a chance to decompress a little bit and think about it?
Not really. Um, I think you're obviously aware of it as you're going along. You start the year breaking a franchise record for wins to start a season. There was awareness. Obviously, we had a good team, but I don't think the league is so good. I don't think there was ever a sense like we are this good that anything is easy. I don't think anything really came easy to us. That might be a misconception. The kids work so hard. There's a lot of hard work behind the scenes still to get to where we were. Obviously, some of those, just to be mentioned with some of the teams in the history of the USHL that we've been compared to now. Obviously to win a Clark Cup in the end, to finish it off along with the regular season, I think even that is remarkable. So it hasn't fully sunk in. There's certainly an awareness there, and really grateful for the season we had.
Yeah, you mentioned the start of the year where you won the first 10 games. I'm curious about going into the season before you began the year that way, and you won a couple games in Pittsburgh at the Fall Classic, and then it took another month before you guys actually lost a game, maybe even longer than a month before you actually lost a game. And the Force were coming off a season in which they had won the Anderson Cup the year before, lost in the Clark Cup Championship to Youngstown. The nature of junior hockey, of course, is you lose some players, including a kid like Cole Knubel, a really good defenseman, Joe Platachuk, one of the first best defensemen in the league last year, and a goaltender who played half your games in Matty Marinoff, who ended up at Quinnipiac, and along with some other guys, Brett Link, I think, is another kid that. And then you came on board with Nick Oliver moving on to the college ranks, and you came on board. Obviously, you're familiar with Fargo, having coached in Sioux Falls as an assistant coach for a few years before that, and you talked about not exactly knowing what you knew. You probably had a chance to be a good team, but to have a 50-win season and do what you guys did, a little outside of the realm of what could happen, right?
For sure. I think when I first got the job, obviously, like any season, but especially when you get a job, you're trying to get up and running and figure out what you have, and you start communicating with the kids. And there was having a relationship with Nick Oliver before probably helped a lot in getting up and running. I was right into the camp. There was certainly not a sense there. You have 35, 40 colleges at these camps. And, I think there's a sense, hey, it'll be fine. You'll be okay. But certainly nothing, that was going to guarantee, or no one was like, hey, don't mess this up type situation. Right. So, I guess you kind of take pride in that we certainly built it up. I mean, I guess you could use Leo Gruba as an example. There's people 3/4 of the way through the season saying, wow, you're so lucky to get these guys back. But Leo was the 8th highest scoring returning defenseman in the league. He wasn't, a 30, 40 point guy a year ago. I think he had 23 or 24 points, and he certainly very lucky to get him back. But I feel like some of that undermines the work that a kid like that put in to get better over the summer, and then
100%.
the work that he put in the season to continue to get better after a great start. And that would be a reflection of the whole group where we start with a great start. You can almost sit there and be like, oh man, how are we going to beat this? And to now reflect on it and look at the season you had where the kids just continue to get better. And the hard part there is everybody's getting better. That's the strength of the league is there's great coaches, there's great organizations, and everyone's got their own development models, and everyone's doing the skill sessions now that it's really hard to differentiate yourself and kind of exponentially get better than anyone. So for the kids, it really came down to the work they put in on top of the talent level of the kids that we had.
Yeah, and then I think a lot of people understand that in order to win championships, there's things really have to fall in place, right? You have to have the team culture be what it is. The guys have to feel good. Hockey's so unique in that respect, I think, in a lot of ways, and you have to be healthy at the right time of the year and go through that. And your best players have to be your best players. And I think some of that stuff for me, looking at your squad this year, there's a couple things that stand out. One is the remarkable consistency. You never lost more than 2 games in a row over the course of a 62-game schedule. I don't think you had that 10-game winning streak at the start of the year, but you also had another 10-game winning streak midway through the season. You had a kid in Max Swanson who had 55 points last year in his -1 draft year. Right. So you knew, yeah, like you said, you knew there were some pieces there, but Leo ends up having a great year being the defenseman of the year. And then your goaltending. The goaltending was good last year. You got Anton Castro coming back, who was a solid goaltender, but you had a player like Hampton Slukinski. And then you guys swung a deal at the 3-quarter mark where you brought in a couple guys in a deal which I think really solidified things. So that's a credit to the organization, I think. And Carey Eats, talk about Carey and the roster building process that you guys went through going into the season, and then maybe over the course of the season where you swing a trade which really helped things down the stretch, Brett.
Yeah, I think just touching on all of what you just said, starting at the top with the culture here, a ton of credit would go to Nick Oliver, Chad Demers, Andrew McGarrah, and then Carter Creer, who we actually retained this year. But the three, were rewarded with nice college jobs. But when you're coming into a job and you don't have to build something up, you're just trying to enhance it. Certainly that makes the job a lot easier. And those guys did an unreal job of setting that championship culture. And then when you get the guys back that you did, how motivated they were, and it was just contagious in the locker room with the new guys coming in. And then you look at Carey, Matt Cullen, who are around to build the team, 2 habitual winners, where Carey would say is like, hey, we won the Anderson Cup last year. He's like, just so you know, I'm going to want to win again this year, and that's something that me and Carey really have in common is, you're pushing to be the best you can be, like if this team hadn't been a 50-win season, but we would have pushed to be as good as we can be, push the development as far as we can. And I think that speaks to how we got to 50 wins was, we were never happy with where we were at. We continue to push into the next game and try to continue to get better. As far as the roster building, it was a process. The draft of the old staff and what Carey were able to do in the phase 2 draft is remarkable when you reflect on it. The value that they got in those middle rounds for guys that had impacts on our lineup, the guys that we added in the summer, Michael Quinn, a camp invite, basically the day before camp, we needed an extra D, and he was a kid that I was definitely familiar with. And, you're like, hey, there's 35 colleges here. He's uncommitted. I think he's a good player. I don't know if there's a spot for him as a 20, but let's bring him in. And he really, he earned a spot. I never had to pound my fist on the table for him. He earned everything he got. Michael Estarza I had in the summer, a really impactful season for us. And then, you get into the fall and you're constantly trying to build the thing up. We are lucky. We never, there's a couple, guys where you're sorting out a process of what's best for their careers that maybe left, but we never traded anyone away off a roster that wanted to be here. and we were able, with a couple open slots we had, we ran with 7D for a long stretch of time. And we were able to add Finn McLaughlin and Brandon Svoboda at the first trade deadline. There's two trade deadlines in the league, and all we gave up were draft picks for those two. So we didn't lose anyone. Kept the continuity in the locker room. Svoboda is a kid that came from Youngstown, won a championship last year, beat Fargo in the finals. Great addition. I mean, he's a big body, but he's mobile. We had him predominantly play the wing, but he's a plus 60% face-off guy. That's right-handed. I think he was a real threat just with his size alone and his skating. Finn's a younger D-man. This league is really tough on young D-men, and he's mature beyond his years. He did play junior hockey in Canada as a 16-year-old, so we valued that experience coming in. But he came in and like I said, just a kid that seemed to be wise beyond his years, and gave us real valuable minutes down that stretch run, which again allowed us to kind of have the finish we did. And the other thing you talked about was the health, and I think that with our organization, our training staff, but we have a full-time strength coach. It's 100 feet from our locker room. Our kids are, if we do go to the practice sheet, we just walk, we leave our locker room, we walk to the practice sheet, and it's the same with the weight room. They're in there every day, whether it's earlier in the week and it's harder lifts, or it's approaching game days and it's mobility. Our strength coach is unbelievable. We provide the kids with supplements. We feed them, regularly. So it's like the colleges now, where it's probably a little bit trying to control what you can, but I do think that those things are important for the kids over a long season. Keep them healthy, and then especially in Fargo, we have the tough travel. So you're getting off that bus with 24 kids sitting on a bus together for 8 hours. You're really making sure that their rest recovery is at a maximum. So all those things, like you said, really go into it. Certainly a collaborative effort, top to bottom in the organization. There's so many people pushing in the same direction to give the kids a chance to be successful anyways.
Yeah. I was thinking about style of play, of what we saw this year out of the Force and puck possession style that your team plays, and the discipline, the least penalized team in the league, allow the fewest shots on goal, but also take the most shots on goal. Talk a little bit about how you wanted your team to play coming in, Brett, and the ability to have the personnel to be able to run your systems.
Yeah, I mean, you just touched on it there, where you have to have the talent to be able to accomplish those. But I don't think I'm doing anything revolutionary. I don't think anyone with our organization thinks we're doing anything revolutionary. But we want to teach the kids how to play defense when we don't have the puck. We want to teach them. For me, I want to defend with our feet and sticks. I want to, can you develop hockey sense? You can't necessarily take a not smart kid and make them smart by the end of the year, but on a day-to-day basis, we're trying to teach them different situational awareness pieces. And I think that's in the defensive zone, and then I also want to teach them that in the offensive zone. So there are some conceptual things, some system things that we definitely have in place and we teach. But we had a really talented group that really took to the style that we were trying to play. Especially the defensive side. I think you have a tendency to go scout, and your eye is going to go to the best players and the offensive players and the guys that are accumulating points. So to get a group of kids like that and get them to defend as hard as we did, I think was special. Certainly led a lot to our success. You did touch on our goaltending. That both the kids were really a big part of our success this year as well. So that probably gives you a little bit of confidence. But I think you look at the point totals through our team, the amount of forwards that had double-digit goals on our team, the contributions from every lines, and then you look on the back end. A lot of times, as good of a year as Gruba had, which was certainly a credit to him. We had a lot of defensemen, 20 plus points, which is really impressive in this league, and in a league that's really, really hard on defensemen, I think, with the amount of pressure that you get on a game by game basis. So, yeah, it wasn't, we're trying to teach good hockey, and if we don't have the puck, we're trying to be organized to get it back. Obviously you look into the playoffs, like never mind Dubuque. Sioux City was a really tough series. They're coached really well. Tri-Cities was a really tough series. 2 weeks before the season ended, we played Des Moines on the road, and that was just two games that were absolutely relentless for us. Maybe for whether it's fair or not for the kids, where they were at in the standings, for how long they were, we were probably playing playoff style hockey for a few months there. And that's probably what got us to where we ultimately needed to go. Was the kids just embrace that challenge. It's kind of that iron sharpens iron. The league is so strong. There's so much depth in the league. It's an every night league. And when they were facing everyone's best on a night by night basis, it's certainly, it was obviously you could have crumbled at any point in time through that, but for the kids to be able to finish it off in the end with the regular season they had, and then also the Clark Cup is really impressive.
Absolutely. And it did just end this past weekend, just a couple days ago. Have you had a chance has the process got to the point already where you start thinking about next year, and looks like we'll have these guys back probably, or is it a little too soon to maybe do an evaluation in some respects?
No, it's definitely started. I mean, unfortunately, it starts a long time before the season ends.
Yeah.
Really good problem to have is that you're doing the draft, right? You're preparing for the Clark Cup finals. I take that problem every year. I try not to complain about it, but it is unique. I'm leaving the draft room to go on the ice and practice with the guys, and all the guys are in the locker room, kind of seeing as the picks come in. You can hear them cheering through the walls and stuff like that. So it's kind of fun in a way, but certainly presents a unique challenge. But the scouting and recruiting process is really, kind of a 12-month year deal. And, Kerry does a great job of that. Corey Lieberman, the associate head coach, really, got on the road a ton in the second half, which will be really valuable for us. But all my assistant coaches are out on the road: Carter Creer, Jackson Keene. And then we have, satellite staff out and about. So you're kind of accumulating your list, but, we're a couple of weeks away from camp. Which is kind of, daunting to think about right now, of just getting back into that rink and the grind of that. But it's also exciting. My experience, it doesn't matter in this league if you win a Clark Cup or not, you're going to have a ton of turnover. It's just the model of the league, it's the dynamic of the league, why you have to have two drafts. So we're excited about, getting back to the challenge of building it back up.
Well, Brett, thanks very much on an unbelievably successful season, capped off with the Clark Cup this past weekend, and happy for everybody with the Force organization. And I wish you all the best in the off season. Hope you get a chance to take a break, enjoy some time with your family, and we look forward to seeing you at the rink again really soon. Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.